Hello everyone, welcome to a video. As actually my pet peeve when YouTubers say, "Oh, welcome to another video." Why did I do that? Hello everyone, welcome. Today it is an uncharacteristically warm day here in Missouri. It is February and it is 45 degrees. I've taken this opportunity to come outside and talk to you about timeline. I spent hours and hours and hours, days, I'm sure it equaled days if not weeks, massive amounts of time I spent working on figuring out my budget and figuring out my timeline. How long was everything going to take? I told everyone it was going to take 6 months, which I knew it was going to take longer than 6 months. But you know, when I had this idea, everyone was so pessimistic about it that I was like, no, it's only going to take 6 months. It's only going to cost me $300. No, I was just like stupidly optimistic. I knew that it was going to take longer, but that was my initial plan. I had started saving and I was ready to pull the trigger, come back to Missouri. I had already bought my bus. The bus was already purchased. But I had gone back to California, saved money for a while, and I was ready to come back, and I pulled the cord. I said, not yet. I want to save more money. I want to be more prepared. And I originally planned to come back to Missouri in May, which would have been a lovely, perfect time to come back and start working outdoors on my school bus. But I decided to hold off, save a little bit more money, and stay in California until October. In October, I came back to Missouri to start working on my bus. And while my Earl account was padded and I was I was ready to go, in good shape in that regard, October is not the ideal time to start a construction project in Missouri. Demolition. Okay guys, let's talk about a few things that took way longer than expected. Number one, demolition. The ceilings took forever. You see all of these little holes here, but you also see that rivet. That was part of the problem. I don't know why, but there were like 2 or 3 different types of screws and also rivets used to hold the ceiling panels onto the bus. It took me forever to remove them, to grind the rivets off, to get the screws out. A lot of the screws broke off or just they got stripped and they had to be ground out. It took forever. It took forever. The second thing that took forever, these wall panels. You know, the bus has wall panels along the sides, and again, you see both screws and rivets being used. I don't know why. Surely there's a reason, but it was infuriating. Excuse me. Infuriating to say the very least. And then on top of that, once I got all of those removed, it turns out that the top of the wall panels were like folded like over, under, and back up under the windows. So they didn't just like come off. They were a nightmare. The demolition process just took so much longer than I anticipated, and quite frankly, it put me in a huge like Debbie Downer, like downward, like super unmotivated spiral, because I expected it to take a few weeks. I thought, oh, I'm just ripping stuff out, it'll just take a few weeks, and it ended up taking months. And then on top of the Missouri winter, everything was slowed down, and I found myself 4 months later with a still not completely demolished bus. And it was like a huge like downer. It really like took the wind out of my sails. It totally unmotivated me. It was way more intense than I ever could have imagined. And I remember the last piece that came out of Earl, which was the floors, or maybe it was the walls, I don't know, but I remember standing on Earl and looking at Earl and seeing him totally stripped and like just being absolutely flippin' elated because I finally was at the point where I got to start building instead of just like trying to tear apart, you know? It felt like it took, well, it did take months just to get to the point where I could start building. So do not underestimate the demolition process. It's brutal, it is very unmotivating, and it'll get you down. And then probably the most difficult thing during demolition was removing the seats and the floor. Keep in mind, I had the man I purchased this bus from remove the bulk of the seats, but I did leave 6 seats in the front. Removing only those 6 seats and the floor was an absolute... it was just a pain. You guys, demolition, be ready. It will take longer than you think. So I'd say I'm like slightly more than halfway through my process of building Earl, and that's my advice, is do not underestimate the demolition process. I have framing done, I'm getting ready to insulate, I fixed the body, I'm working on some, we still have to fix these lights. Everyone keeps asking, when are you going to insulate? I would have loved to have insulated months ago, but there were things that had to be done first with the body that I didn't want to have to keep pulling insulation out and putting it back in. The last one of those is the lights. They have arrived. I'm doing it tomorrow, so watch out for a video about replacing all of the lights. But anyway, I'm slightly over halfway done, and it's been a year, just a little bit over a year. Now keep in mind, actually, I shouldn't say a year. I was out of town for like almost 4 months. So it's been 8 months. It took me 8 months to get halfway done. 3 months of that was winter, which were very, very unproductive months. So maybe we call it 5 months. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's been over a calendar year and I'm only a little bit over half done. Could it be done faster? Oh, you bet your britches it could be. You bet your britches it could be done faster. But I work 2 jobs actually, and that is something that I also totally discounted. Lastly, y'all, is weather. This is a beautiful, beautiful gray Missouri February day. It's actually 45. I don't know why. It's not normal. Today it's 45, but for the last like 2 months it's been in the 20s, in the teens, in the negatives. Some days it's barely gotten over 5 degrees. Can I work on Earl? Yes, occasionally, and I have tried to seize every opportunity, but you cannot discount weather. It's a huge factor. You cannot work on the outside of Earl or your bus, whatever you've named it, in 7 degrees. You just can't. You can't do it. If you're able to quit your job and completely focus on building your bus, that is amazing. It will go so quickly. If not, watch out, because there's a good chance that you will highly overestimate your efficiency while working full-time. It is really difficult some days after, you know, getting up at 4:30, working a few hours of one job, going to physically to the other job, and then coming back and working a few more hours of my work from home job. It's really hard to find the motivation to like come install some brake lights. It really is. So it's something that I totally underestimated, and I hope you don't do the same thing. If you have to keep working while you're building your bus, keep in mind you need to rest, you need to schedule some downtime, or you will get burnt out, you will get unmotivated, and you will, I don't know what'll happen, but it won't be good. Okay, so what's my advice? I'm just sitting here gibbering and jabbering about demolition and whining, essentially, for minutes on end. What's my advice? If you are able to quit your job, if you have all of the money ready to go for your entire build and you are set to go, you don't have to work, you can just build a bus, I would say 6 months. 6 to 9 months. If you have to work, if you don't have your budget completely filled out yet and you have to keep working to finish off your budget, I would say 1 to 2 years. Get ready. Get ready. As soon as it gets warm, I will I think this will wrap up really quickly. I think the hard part is done. It is February. I am hoping to be done by June or July, and then I am hoping that the licensing and insuring process, I know in Missouri it takes a while. I think they're pretty lax. So from what I hear, they're pretty lax. So it's not that it's a matter of that, it's that the paperwork takes around 6 weeks, it sounds like. So I'm hoping that I'm gone by summer, late summer. I don't know, we'll see. So, you know, here we are halfway through the build. It's taken twice as long as expected, almost twice as long, a little under twice as long as expected. So I don't know, we'll check in again, but that's my advice for your initial timeline planning. Number one, if you have to work, way overestimate the amount of time it will take. And number two, do not underestimate the demolition process. It is a beast. See you next time. Did I just hear you say that you desperately want access to insider information and special perks? Well, check out my Patreon page right here. And don't forget to subscribe right here, or just watch another video right here. Do all the things. Do them all.